You can tell we've been on live TV for a while. Hi, welcome back to our Fanboy TV South by Southwest 6-hour live, epic, spectacular, spooky fun doom. I'm your host, Gavin Stone, joined today by...
I'm Mark Martinez with the Austin Horror Society and host of Austin Horror here at Fanboy TV.
And we have this awesome little film called Knock Knock here with us. Introduce yourselves, everybody.
I'm Jeff Betancourt, the writer-director.
I am Danielle Savre, an actress in the film and a producer.
And I'm Skyler Vallo, actress in the film.
All right, so in a nutshell, what is Knock Knock about?
Knock Knock is about a group of girls who decide to play this game where you can summon anyone who's passed away. But if you summon them, you can't look at them, because if you look at them, they'll possess you and take over your body forever. So, yeah, and things don't go well, I'll just say that.
Well, you get a bunch of teenage girls doing a slumber party. Things aren't going to go well because they're pretty catty. Let's face it. You guys are very catty. I'm not even going to lie.
Not me for
once.
once.
You were the innocent one. You were like, hey guys.
And then they were stoned as well, so that never helps either.
That's always an added element.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about coming up with a story for it?
Yeah, it was one of those ideas, because I'm a film editor, that's my day job during the day and stuff, and I'd been wanting to make a short, and so and it was one of those ideas that I just had, and always like making my own stuff and having something that, we all sort of work a lot, but you want to have stuff that you have control over and that you have final say in. And so it was like, came up with the idea, and I knew I wanted to keep it contained, like one room, and to be able to shoot it on a weekend. And and it was something, it was once you had that hook of an idea, because to me, horror works in a lot of ways comedy does. Like in comedy, they talk about what's the game of the scene, like what's it about. So once I had the game came in my head, and I was like, oh, you can summon a ghost, but you can't look at them. And I was just fascinated by that. I thought it was so scary. And so when something sends the cackles up on my neck, I ran home, I wrote it down. I wrote it like in an afternoon and wrote this, 15-page little script. And it kind of started from there.
What drew you guys to wanting to do this?
It kind of reminded me a little bit of Bloody Mary. The game that I would play, I guess, in elementary school. And that terrified me, the thought of, you turn around and in the mirror and then you see this ghost. And I actually, I babysit a little girl, too. And she, at the time, was like, I'm not going in the bathroom because Bloody Mary's in there. And I'm like, this is such, I don't know, it reminded me of that idea so much. And it's still so terrifying to children today that I just identified with it because I remember it. And also, I really wanted to play the sweet an innocent girl because I tend to not get that part. And so this was a different role for me.
What's the part you normally get?
How do I put this nicely?
I don't think you can.
Yeah.
Okay, so
The queen bee.
Yeah,
the
the queen bee, kind of a mean girl.
Yeah.
do you get tired of being constantly cast like that?
No, actually.
I love being mean.
No, I love it. I prefer it. I think it's very interesting to what makes these people work and tick, and diving into that.
Yeah.
Diving into that. I don't know. I just feel like there's more for me. I can do more of a character and.
That explains an awful lot, because something happens at the end of this film, and you switch from one mode to another.
And she's so good at it.
And you were so good at it.
That wasn't a hard switch for me. That's what I'm used to.
For a second, I was like, did they change actresses or something? Because literally, your expressions and everything went from night to day.
Totally.
I was like, what?
Yeah, that's. Yeah.
And for the rest of the short, we had talked about her character. We sat down before, we kind of went through everything, and then the last scene came up, and I went up to her, and she's like, Jeff, I got this part. I know how to do this part.
Yeah.
Well, you've all made a horror film here. Did any of y'all grow up as horror fans?
I know I did completely. No, that's what I grew up on. When my parents first got a VHS tape, I went to the VHS player. I went to the horror section, rented every Friday the 13th. Halloween, all that stuff I grew up on and always loved it.
I didn't grow up on horror. I grew up on more like thriller-esque stuff, but Jeff won me over with horror. I love it now. And shooting it is the most fun you could ever have. Because you go from screaming and crying in front of the camera, and the second they say cut, you're laughing and having such a great time with the casting.
Yeah, while you're covered in fake blood and organs. Oh, this is awesome.
But it is. You wouldn't expect it, but it is. It's so much fun to play. You're playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit, but I also grew up watching more crime stories, unsolved mysteries, and Dateline when I was 5. I don't know why my mom let me watch that, but that's much more terrifying to me than actual horror movies. So I watched the real thing, and that scarred me for life. So yeah, thanks, Mom.
We found that making any film is in a short like this, you can run into a whole lot of obstacles, right? Do y'all have any stories about making this film that?
Oh my gosh. Oh.
I mean, in general, you're always going to run into problems, as you know. But like, I mean, the whole thing was a process. From making the prosthetic head was like, going.
That was a process.
20
That
minutes
was,
to being an hour with the cast on her face, or going over, a little bit over time and trying to figure out how we're going to budget that. And I mean, you're always, as a producer,
Yes.
the producer side, it's trying to make sure that those things don't cause too much of a riff in the filming process.
Yeah, and then for us, always finding a location is always tough too, because a lot of people don't understand what's involved when you bring a crew into a house and do all that stuff. So that's always fun. And I had a friend, we couldn't find a location, and a friend of mine at the last second was like, "Oh, you can come use my house. That'll be fine." And then I don't think he knew what he was in for, because then you have like a crew of like 20 people helping out, strangers walking through your house, and boards down. So that was the toughest part. So me, I'm trying to focus on the story, but at the same time I'm trying to protect my friend and didn't want him to not invite us back again. So, but yeah, we did a life cast of Skyler's head. That was, because we wanted to do we have most of our effects, 90% of the effects in the film are practical, practical makeup and all of that, and with a few digital shots. But we knew we wanted the big showpiece to be a practical effect. And so Skyler had to have a life mold of her head, and they promised me it would be like 20 minutes. And
it was a couple hours. But no, they put like a couple layers on, and I was fine with it until the hard cast layer came over, and like they just put little like nose holes so you can breathe. And you can't breathe through your mouth at all, and you can't really talk, and you're just like, "Are you okay?" And you're just like, "That's all you can do," and then it just hardens. And
it was
Yeah,
intense.
it was a little intense.
It was a little intense. No, and we just try and talk her through it. And I like to be there for that stuff because I think it's important. When the actor goes in, I'm like, I want to be there too, because I know it's an ordeal to go through. And it was funny, they wouldn't tell us who it was, but they were like, last week they had a major NBA player come in to have a life cast done, and they were like, "You did great, you did it." He panicked halfway through, and they had to rip it off because the guy couldn't handle it.
One guy, they said they fell asleep in it, and like they were like, and they were like, "Are you okay?" And they like tore it off of him. They thought he was having a panic attack, and he was like, "Sorry, dude, I fell asleep."
No, yeah, and I don't know
How
if
can
he
you fall asleep in that?
I know exactly. No,
I don't know.
was it Jack Nicholson? I think was Jack.
No, it was.
Not supposed to be giving away
Well, no,
names.
No. It was Jared Leto. For a fight. I remember.
That's right. Oh, you're right. You're totally right. Yes.
So speaking of the practical effects, was it really weird to watch that happen to your face? Like, were you sitting there watching going, "Oh, wow"?
It was weird to see the mold for the first time because it looked so good. It looked so much like me that it was. I've never seen anything like it. But honestly, I'd watched a couple cuts of it, and until last night when we saw it on the big screen with the full special effects, I squirmed.
Yeah. Good.
Not until last night. I was like, "Oh, oh my God, that's my face!"
You're like, "Hey, that's
but
me
it
up
didn't hit me
there."
until last night. And Tyler said that I was like really squirmish. My boyfriend, sorry, said that I was like super squirmish, and I didn't even realize it would be until last night.
No, we have so many cool behind-the-scenes photos of her with all the prosthetics. We've been trying to hold back so people are surprised by seeing the movie, but we can't wait till we can show all those behind-the-scenes photos as well.
What was it like watching it with an audience for the first time?
Awesome. It's just awesome. It's always go for it.
And there are funny parts to the film too. Like we go into it and I'm watching it and I'm editing it, sort of with a very sort of serious mind to it. But it's actually there's very funny parts as well. And so it's always nice to hear the people laugh. And and I've heard other people at screenings and stuff like that said that there's a lot of laughter until it turns, and then once it turns, it gets deathly quiet once things start happening. But for me, I've done a lot of comedy and a lot of horror, so it's nice to get the gratification of both.
So last question, because we're almost out of time. Will you guys ever go to a sleepover again?
I feel like that's the best question for you.
Wait, what kind of sleepover?
Your typical sleepover, like from the movie. Like, will you let your kids have sleepovers ever again? Will you have sleepovers?
Oh yeah, they'll be fine.
She'll be like, "I'll be the one in the closet coming out going."
What about you?
Oh, I totally would. I love that kind of stuff. Yeah, the scarier the better, in my opinion. Because, as you saw in the film, I was the one actually scaring.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and that's the other nice thing. Going back to the idea with the movie was that in the end, I feel like you said, the girls are not nice to each other, and so in a way, it's the characters that are the main bad guys to me. Like Ghost is sort of incidental and all that stuff, and it's really what they do to each other. And that's the stuff in horror that always gets me. It's not even so much like Creepshow is one of my favorite horror movies ever, and a lot of the stuff in there comes from what the characters do to themselves. The ghost and the supernatural stuff is kind of in the background, but it brings out the worst in people.
So thanks for being on the show. Where can people see it at South by Southwest?
Let's see, we're at the Midnight Madness competition, so I think Tuesday night and then Thursday night as well are the last 2 screenings.
Make sure you guys head out and check that up. And amazing time. Loved it. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Stay tuned for more after this.